And I was trying to figure out how to do it without becoming a teacher. That's what I was going to school for when I was younger. When I was in college, I was going to school for elementary education. Um, and so that was kind of my vision, was become a teacher, become a coach, get into the school system. When I was done playing basketball in college, I was done with college. I went to school to play basketball. Was getting my teaching degree along the way. Um, but no, when I got to this point, I was really trying to figure out a way to still do what I loved without having to jump into the school system. Um, and really,
Why is
just
that? Why is that again? Is that because you were burned out with the idea of teaching? You didn't want to really do that as a major. You just did it because you had to have a major. It was your minor after basketball. Why didn't you want to work in the school system?
um, I feel like teachers just don't get paid enough. It would have been hard for me to leave the construction part of it to be a teacher, I guess. I wasn't sold. I love working with kids, but I just wasn't sold on doing it as a teacher. I wanted to find a different way um, to just impact young lives and be a part of it. Nothing against. Um, I do think if I wouldn't have found this path, I would have finished my schooling, my teaching degree. I think I only have like 4 semesters left to get my teaching degree. So I was really close. Uh, just wanted to find a different way, I guess. So nothing against it. Like I said, I definitely think I would have taken that road if this road didn't work out.
What did that preparation look like to I mean, financially, conversations with your spouse, your kids? How did you prepare to do this thing full time?
It took some time. Um, I think I probably started off the same way that most guys start off, and that's having a full time job. Um, and trying to train after your 9 to 5. So you've got a 9 to 5 that's paying the bills, but then you're trying to find those extra 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours after work um, to train kids and to help kids. And so for the longest time, I did both. I had 2 jobs. I still had my construction company. I just at the time I decided to go all in on basketball training, I got rid of all of my employees. I sold a lot of the heavy equipment that we had. I downsized tremendously. So I was doing a lot of jobs that I could manage by myself that were paying the bills. And I was still training um, after that. So I was working all day in construction. And then come 4 or 5 o'clock, typically when kids are out of school and are ready to hit the gym, I was in the gym for 2, 3, 4 hours every night when I started. Um, so right away, it was definitely a lot, but it took some time, probably 3.5 years, um, for me to be able to do it completely full time. And I think a lot of that's just what I learned over the years and how to structure a lot of things helped me to be able to just to finally be able to make that move. And right away, I had too much debt on the construction side. I think even if training would have been fantastic from the get go, I still wouldn't have been able just to walk away from the construction side because I just had too much debt in it.
Understood, man. I didn't know you spent 3.5 years doing both, juggling the full time and growing the basketball training business. Were you already in the facility you're in now, or were you somewhere else while you were doing both?
No. So with that 3.5 years, I had my own facility. Um,
Okay.
not where I'm at now. We just opened this. It'll be 2 years in April. Um, is when I got into this facility. The facility I had before this, much smaller, 18, probably had 2,200 square feet overall. My court space was only 1,800 square feet. So it was a 60 by 30 space. And this is where we start to talk a lot about, um, you know, trainers wanting to get into doing this full time. Um, you don't necessarily need the big court that you walk into. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot. Like I said, my first facility had one basket. The court space was 60 by 30. And that's where I started my business. I was in that facility when I was able to go full time, and it was just a matter of getting things structured the right way, and obviously building up clientele and staying busy, seeing if you could stay busy throughout an entire 12 months, because it does fluctuate. So you've just got to have the right processes in place to help you during the slow times. And but yeah, it was a good 3 years that I was doing both. And each year the construction side of it was less and less. But it was still working two jobs.
Right. And this is a self-serving question before I get back to some of the other questions that may be helpful. I think this question will be helpful. When you moved into the first facility, that 60 by 30 space with one goal, did you build out the court? Did you have the goal up there? What was the maintenance or the construction for that first facility that you did and were responsible for financially?
So with my situation, that facility already had one hoop up. The guy had one hoop on the wall. He had some vinyl flooring down. So when I first started in that facility, I was just kind of using it just like you would rent court space anywhere else. I was only renting it by the hour. And so, just based on my clientele and my needs at the time, I was renting it by the hour. They were great to work with. And then come that summer, so this would have been in the winter sometime. So come that summer, I knew my hours in there were going to be a lot more, and paying by the hour just didn't make any sense. So we ended up just working out a monthly rental agreement that just allowed me to do a lot more and to be in there, a lot more flexibility. Having a monthly instead of trying to rent it by the hour. And so then I was responsible for, I put 2 more baskets up in there. There's a lot more that we ended up doing. But yeah, I was responsible for everything else that went on the inside. But with that specific situation, like I said, there was already some vinyl flooring down. There was already one hoop up. So for that specific situation, I was able to walk into it with no overhead, other than what I was paying per hour to train, which is similar to any big courts that you try to rent out. You just have to try to work something out with some to where it's more consistent. I guess I think consistency is huge with renting out spots in big court spaces.
And that's so let's talk about the 5 C's just for the guys who don't know about it. We talk about it in Basketball Skills Training Full Time, your Facebook group.
Yeah.
And right now you just alluded to it with court time, renting court time like per hour versus court space, having a lease to where you have unlimited rights, unlimited access, and the freedom of the control there. So I think that's one of the C's. Can you kind of go through those C's and touch on each one of those phases?
Yeah, so we've got, give me 1 second here. So court would be the first one. And we talk about, sorry, I was just pulling it up here. We talk about renting court time, renting court space. So, and the big difference with that, like I said, when I started, I was renting time, right? I'm going to be there at this time. I'm renting by the hour, basically, as opposed to renting space is when you get into more of a monthly rental agreement or a monthly lease that allows you a lot more freedom. And even at renting time, like I said, if you can get any of these places, any of these facilities to allow you the same time multiple days a week, you can start a training program, very successful one. It just has to be consistent. And I think what a lot of trainers struggle with, especially starting out, is one day you might be training here, one day you might be training there. It might be at this time, or it might be at that time. That's hard to start a bigger program. You know, it's not as hard as if you're doing more individual or personal training, because then you can just let a couple players know, hey, we're going to be here this day. You know, that's a little easier to structure. But start when you go to more of an open subscription format, having the same time, same place, just it goes so much further with your business and what you're trying to do there. So either can work, but again, if you can rent space, and whether that be leases are tough because you get tied into it for multiple years. You know, like right now, my facility, I'm tied into a 5-year lease. We're almost 2 years in. I don't see me ever going anywhere, but you know, at this point in where I'm at, a 5-year lease, like I had no problem with that. But for guys starting out, committing to a space to where you don't know if it's going to work out, 5 years is a long time. Like, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the size of my facility. So the location of my facility, I was a little iffy about. I'm a little ways, not out of town, but what people around here would consider out of town. Bismarck's by no means big. You can get anywhere around here in 25 minutes, but my other facility was on the other side of town, which was way up north. And I lost quite a few clients because I'm now south Bismarck. So yeah, that's kind of what we talk about. You know, just looking at your options as far as renting time and renting space. And like I said, a lot of these bigger facilities that guys are training out of, figuring out a way to just have that consistency a few times a week. I mean, imagine what you could do if you had let's just say 2 days a week, 2 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, 2-3 hours, and it was consistent on a monthly basis. There's a lot you can do with that. But again, when it's just kind of all over the place, it's hard to structure your business around it.
That makes sense. Okay, and usually that seems like you're prospecting for gym time. In the beginning, you're prospecting for gym time just as much as you're prospecting for clientele, just to find, like you said, that consistency, the ideal location,
Right.
and all those other factors too. So unless you have anything else on that first C for court, what is the next one?
The next C we start to talk about is cash. And these don't necessarily go in any specific order. It's kind of dependent on where guys are at, you know, in their journey, in their business. But when we talk about cash, it's the pricing structure. It's getting set up the right way. And something we talk heavily on is private one-on-one training versus personal training. So guaranteed one-on-one training is something that I went away from a long time ago. And there's just not, if guys are wanting to do this full time, and if a big part of your business is one-on-one training, there's just not enough hours in a day. You know, if you're doing this full time, and in the core of your revenue is one-on-one, you're training a lot of hours a day. You're putting in a lot of work. I mean, you want your those sessions to be your high end option, but if you're limiting it to just one other player, it's that's a hard way to go. I just don't think it's sustainable. If you're wanting to do this full time, and if you want training to be your main source of income. So we talk about personal training. Like my sessions, I allow up to 4 players in my personal training sessions. I don't think, me personally, I don't get any worse as a trainer just because I have 2 or 3 more players in a group. So what I have to offer, doesn't go downhill just because I have more than one player. So I allow up to 4 players in my personal training sessions. And I think that's somewhere the most common thing you'll see is trainers will have their one-on-one pricing. And then their next price point is small group, right? And so your small group pricing is typically 2 to 6 players, right? And so when you go to your small group pricing, let's say your one-on-one pricing's $100 an hour or $75 an hour, whatever the case might be. When you go to small group, 2 to 6 players, you drop it down to $45 a player just because there's more players, right? So I do think passing that 4 player mark, obviously that one-on-one attention starts to go downhill. You start to lose a little bit of that personal attention. So I do think going past that 4 player mark, once you pass that mark, obviously you should adjusting your prices makes sense. But for me, changing my price from just because I have 2 players instead of 1 player or 3 players, I allow it to go up to 4 players. I think as a trainer, we have way more to offer, and you would hope that you as a trainer, your ability to train kids doesn't just drastically go downhill because you have 4 players instead of 1 player. And so I always like to think, even like my big groups, I like to think of it as, you can compare it to any group session stuff, right? Let's take, I don't know, a yoga class or aerobics class or
any big box gym, really.
Any
like
big box gym.
Huge numbers in their classes.
Right. And so the difference is it's adults, and most of the time, and you understand that you yourself have to put in the work to get the results that you want. Right. And so trying to just relay that to kids and to parents, like, I don't have to be standing next to you holding your hand for you to work on. Right. I can be standing 10 feet away helping another player and you still be over here digging into what you need to dig into. But that also comes along with as a trainer, how detailed are you and how well are you explaining what your players should be doing, right? So I think as the more detailed trainers can get, the easier this becomes to be able to train larger groups.
And honestly, that topic provides the most engagement I see. Is it okay to have big groups? How do you have big groups in attendance without the quality of the training session decreasing? How do you not allow the athletes to stand still? Which, again, you guys, we talk about it in this group, but you guys talk about it in basketball skill training full time in your group as well. I do want to go to the other C's too to hear those, and we can kind of, for time purposes, I want to go to the other C's and get your insight on those.
Yeah, I'll run through them fairly quick.
Okay.
Next one is conversion. This is probably a big chunk of it, and again, these are in no specific order. But the third C on the list is conversion, and we just start talking about getting into the marketing side of things, acquiring new customers, targeting specific customers, who your ideal client is. I think that's a big one that us as trainers, we lose sight of a little bit. Because anytime I ask anyone who their ideal client is, they start naming off who they like to train, right? High school kid, this level, this skill set. But as when you think of it in marketing and advertising, your player that you're training isn't the one paying you, right? So we really start to dig into your ideal client. One has to be a parent. And in probably I would say majority of cases, your ideal client is a mom. And you can say a mom between the age of this and this, and you can really start to dig into whether they're married, whether they're single parents. You can just dig into this pretty hard. But your ideal client is gonna be a parent. And like I said, in most situations, I think it's the mom. Mom makes all the decisions. Mom's doing all the work, taking kids from here to there, for the most part. From what I've noticed, and this speaking from my experience, obviously it's not that way in all situations, but so that's conversion. Connection, being the next one, and really just how trainers connect with players, with parents, with coaches, how you handle yourself, how you are as a trainer. I think there's a lot of things that go into connection. Your health, how you take care of yourself, you just your appearance, how you are in the community. So much of this just it goes a long way, and a lot that we get into. Your appearance, how you appear on social media. You see a lot of guys that they maybe they're good with kids, and they're great trainers, but then you take a look at their social media, and it's F this and it's F that. And I mean, just their social media is just a mess. And when you talk about working with kids, it's just definitely something you got to think about is how you appear outside of the gym, and if you're a role model. And it's just speaking of as a parent, if I'm paying and I'm dropping my son or daughter off to you, I'm for sure going to be looking at social media to see what kind of person you are. And so you definitely want just a lot of that stuff just to be cleaned up, in my opinion. And so that's connection. And then was that 4 of them?
Yeah, we got court, cash, conversion, connection, and there's one more, I believe.
Yeah, calibrate.
Okay.
So calibrate really just digs into making all of this work. Whether it be through websites and funnels, just how your processes are all tied together to just keep things moving fluently, staying in contact with your players, staying in contact with the parents, and just, potentially having a lot of this stuff automated, emails, follow up, just everything kind of thrown together, and making all of this run as smooth as possible.
Question for you.
Yeah.
We have, so one person in the group asked, and I kind of would like to tie this question into one thing you mentioned in your group about generating, I think was it $30,000 or $60,000 in 3 months?
60.
$60,000 in 3 months, even during the pandemic times. So
Yeah.
one trainer asked, what are your clientele numbers monthly for North Dakota? And if you could tie that into the 60,000 in 3 months, that would be great.
So right now, I'll look.
Okay.
And again, this kind of what I'm doing here, this ties into calibrate and just having all of your processes in line, and me being able to just pull this up and see exactly where I'm at is, I think it's huge. So I currently have, as of today, 94 members.
Active members. Okay.
I have 94 active members. Currently at 167.91 per member is where I'm at right now in my slowest time of the year.
Oh, you gave the price point too.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. That's thorough. And as far as the 60K in 3 months, how did you go about doing that?
So a big part of that was, what led to that. One is having a lot of these price points already in place. Having the way I had my pricing structured prior to this. So, and this would really only apply to anyone that already has their own facility. And it doesn't even have to be the size that my facility is. So what I did, I offer, so real quick, my pricing structure, I offer a limited monthly plan for $105 that allows players to come train twice a week. I have an unlimited plan that's $135 that allows them to come, and these are to my group sessions, what I call my skill lab sessions. That allows them to come 4 to 5 days a week, depending on time of year. We go 5 days. Right now we're going 4 days a week. So that's my skill lab membership. And so back when the pandemic hit, everything shut down. I even had to close for a month. But what I did was generated a yearly membership for $997. That was based around the skill lab membership for $135 a month.
I remember that.
Yeah.
It was nice. That was a nice funnel right there. Honestly, the landing page was fire.
Yeah, appreciate that. So we created what we call the all access membership. And it was a yearly membership pushing the skill lab. And what we did, because everything was shut down, I couldn't train, but I pushed that membership really hard. And what we ended up doing was allowing whatever players were signed up for that membership, them and their immediate family to rent 1 hour time slots at my facility. Nobody else in here. They got a door code and they were able to come in, use the facility by themselves for an hour. And so we pushed that $997 really hard. And that took off. Like that ended up just blowing up. And that was the majority of the 60,000. And that was in like 3 weeks. It took off. The gym was reserved from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day for the first month and almost all summer. It wasn't to that extent because I was able to get back to training after the first month. My personal training, we couldn't start our large groups for a little while. But just that membership just exploded. So that was the majority of where that came from. And then just some other things that tied to that was a shooting clinic that I did. My PT Academy and my shooting clinic. Well, I've got a few of them. They didn't all contribute to that specific number. My PT Academy contributed to that huge. So the PT Academy is the camps that I do. That's actually the shirt that I have on. It's a 4-day camp, limited to 12 players, and those are. Last year we did them. They were just under $800 a player. For 4 days, limited to 12 players, and we went 6 hours a day. So that contributed to that 60 as well in those 3 months. And the reason I lumped some of those together, like the all access membership was the core of it. But our 3-on-3 league, our shooting clinic, and the PT Academy, again, I think if you structure them the right way, from a business standpoint, there's a lot that guys can get into revenue wise.
I believe it. So with all those things that we can get into, obviously you're offering a chance for more trainers to learn more from you, to dive deeper into it. Can you go into that a little bit of what you're offering pretty soon here?
Yeah. So that's, I lost you. So Kinetic over in my group, it's Kinetic, and it's court to cash. we kind of had this conversation on the phone the other day, but so Kinetics, it's a play on words with my last name. But also there's kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is energy in motion. And we're all about forward motion and moving coaches forward and just helping them kind of take what may be their hobby into a full-time business, and to be able to do it full-time. The tagline, court to cash, it's how we help trainers. It's how we help trainers over a 90-day period. So this Kinetic will be a 90-day coaching program. And the court to cash is how we help trainers over that 90-day period. We help you create and leverage. We help you create the leverage within your community, and just take you through a lot of things, a lot of stuff that we've been talking about within the 5 C's. We talk about how and taking guys through finding courts. And again, a lot of this is based on where guys are at within their journey. If you don't need to find a court, then some of the stuff that we talk about under court doesn't necessarily apply. But it'll be a 90-day coaching program within Kinetic, and it'll be everything that we're going to be doing is going to be doing live. So this won't be a course that you guys that guys are buying. It'll be in a private Facebook group. We'll be digging into really whoever gets into it. We'll be getting into everyone's business specifically, and just where we can take it and what we can do with any aspect of it. Where the whole program is just taking trainers and turning them into business owners. And I think there's definitely a difference. And I think a lot of guys right now are stuck in training being more of a hobby. And you don't automatically just learn how to know how to be a business owner. My experiences with my construction company and running it and learning, taking bumps and bruises along the way, I guess, with that business has helped me a lot with just being successful with this business.
Hey, so how can the trainers learn more about that? Do they join the group? How do they stay in touch to be
jump over basketball skills training full time? So that's my Facebook group. All week I'll be going live in there all week. We'll be digging into the 5 C's more. Next week, Tuesday, we're going to launch. We're going to launch the offer to get into Kinetic. Sorry, computer started wigging out. But yeah, we'll be in the group all week, going over stuff. Would love if guys got in there and just ask questions, get the engagement going. I'll have some time set. By the end of today, we'll have some scheduled events going throughout the week. We're going to have some giveaways. I've got a couple books that I'm going to give away that have tremendously helped me with a lot on the marketing side and driving traffic. Just a ton of stuff. I'm super excited about it. But yeah, if guys jumped over in the group and joined the group, let us know who you are. Say hi. We're gonna be in there quite a bit this week.
Hey, I'll be in there myself. So thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And hopefully this is not the last time we have a conversation, man, about everything you have going on and what you're doing to help the basketball training industry as a whole. So thank you.
For sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, I just ended that broadcast. Thanks, man. I literally had, you still there?
Yeah.